This is the BWI Daily Recruiting Show edition. He's Ryan Snyder bringing you all the latest recruiting news. I'm Greg Pickel. And let's dive into the full weekend recap now, Ryan. Parker was obviously one of, about 17 players that took official visits to Penn State this weekend. You have a really neat story up checking in with some of the commitments who took their official visit this past weekend over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. You gave each of those guys 4 questions to answer. So really encourage everyone to take advantage, if you're not already doing so, of our $1 for 1 year of access to On3 Plus and Insider BWI content promotion. You can do that at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com on the homepage. But Ryan, let's open the bidding for this official visit recap with the 2 4-star linebackers who were on hand. Whether you want to start with Tony Rojas or Tamiya Robinson, both have released their list of finalists heading into the end of the month of June here. Both have also set a decision date, so I'm not sure which guy you want to start with, but probably Robinson since you had the chance to talk to him, but I'll let you take it away from there.
Well, one thing I'd say too is Jalen Thompson wasn't able to make it, so the final list was 16 guys. Jalen Thompson, I believe, missed a connecting flight, so they were down one of the uncommitted guys.
Tough flying these days, man. Tough flying these days.
Yeah, so we'll I'll be checking in on that here in the coming days to see if he's able to make it. But there were 7 uncommitted guys, I believe, was the number, and 9 committed guys was the totals. But anyway, yeah, of course, Tamiya and Tony, we've talked about them, I think, on every single podcast since we have started this podcast, and we will probably.
I don't think T. Frank's going to play the highlight reel of Rojas this time because I think we've seen it enough for lifetime. I have it burned into my memory. I can probably narrate it without seeing it. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but Tony, of course, is set for a July 5th commitment, and there's just a ton of talk right now. Will he visit Georgia? Will he stay? Will he not visit Georgia? It's up for debate, and I'm not going to pretend I have an awesome answer there. I haven't spoken with Tony in depth about it, so I'm not exactly sure as of this morning. I've definitely have had people tell me that they do not expect him to go to Georgia. I've definitely talked to people at Georgia who seem to think that visit is not going to take place, but Tony's saying he is, and hey, who am I to doubt that? So we'll see. I don't know really what else to say about that, but I will say that I firmly believe he is going to end up in Nittany Lion. He is set to announce on July 5th, and everybody seems to be pretty much in agreement that Penn State is the team here. Family seems to really be in Penn State's corner. His grandparents were up this weekend, both sisters, mother. There was a deep house or a deep group of the Rojas house in State College this weekend, and a lot of positive reviews about it. So I think that's trending very strong for Penn State, and I think we will know about his commitment in about 2 weeks' time. Clemson and Georgia are still technically in the mix. And technically, I think he has Miami still in the mix too. But this is definitely Georgia. Clemson is full at their position. They got 2 linebacker commitments, so I expected Georgia to be the only real competition here, and we'll see if he ends up in Athens this weekend or not. As far as Tamiya has a commitment date for July 15th. Miami is definitely in the mix there. They have had his attention for a long time, and so is Brent Pry. I don't want to underestimate it. I do believe Miami's a little bit more of the contender there, but he's another guy, man. I think all signs are pointing to Penn State right now coming out of this weekend, and that was something I wrote in my weekend preview, which is you can look at a lot of cases this year where having that first visit was maybe a little more important than having that last, but I think this is truly one of those situations where having that last visit was massive, and of course having all the committed guys there too. You mentioned the committed players that I did an article with. I asked every one of them who's someone you really enjoyed kicking it with, and Tamiya and Tony were mentioned by I think over half of them, maybe almost all of them. I think all but like 1 or 2 said that those were the guys that they had the most fun hanging out with. So Penn State did a great job with those 2 this weekend. I think all signs are pointing to the Nittany Lions, and we will know July 5th for Tony Rojas and July 15th for Tamiya Robinson.
So as we said at the start of the show, we're getting into that time of year now, Ryan, where you're going to see a few guys maybe commit before the end of this month, but a majority of them are going to wait until next month. And I think as we saw last year, the first full week of July will be busy. That 4th of July weekend tends to be a time when prospects gravitate towards. So we'll see who else gets added to the July announcement rundown list. But at this point, just those 2 on the list for now. So we shall see. Let's move on to some other guys here. I guess we'll go next to Jakeem Jackson because that's a player you were able to chat with. He is a 3-star, I believe, on three consensus corner. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I believe that's right. From Kissimmee, Florida, top 60 corner in this class. Somebody that Penn State's had an eye on for quite some time, and he's not someone we've talked about much, if at all, here on the BWI Daily Recruiting Show, Ryan. But certainly seemed to really enjoy his visit to Penn State.
Well, yeah, going into June, I certainly had Daniel Harris at the top of Penn State's cornerback board. Jalen Braxton was in the mix too. Jalen's now off the board, and maybe one or two others there as well. But Jakeem has certainly moved his way up. Definitely one of their top 4 or 5 cornerback targets. He's absolutely a take, somebody they're pushing hard for. He has an official visit to Tennessee this upcoming weekend, and I think Tennessee absolutely has his attention, and I would circle them as the school that I would watch the closest. Now, with that, out of the official visits. With that said, he did get an offer from Florida in May and then just camped at Florida yesterday. That says a lot to me. He really wants that Florida offer. Now, of course, I just said he got an offer in May. He really wants that Florida offer. What does that mean? Well, as I've discussed before here, I mean, there are a ton of offers that go out that are really more so glorified camp invites. The fact that he gets an offer in May, comes and camps in mid-June, tells me that Florida really wanted to get him on campus to solidify things. So that's what I need to figure out now here in the coming days, is kind of how did that workout go? Where does he stand on Florida's board? Because if he is a absolute take for Florida, I've had a lot of people mention, hey, Florida is certainly poking around. Florida has his interest, and we will see how those cards fall. So we will see here. Right now, I still kind of think he's going to end up in the South. He also did take an official visit to Auburn. I don't want to overlook the Tigers as well. They're definitely in the mix. And out of the guys who have visited this weekend, Jakeem certainly feels like the biggest wild card to me. So let's just kind of, every time I talk to him, it's just kind of different schools, different mentions. Penn State's consistently in it, but I just get different reads when I speak with him. Great kid, but I think he just needs to kind of figure things out. Like, for example, he previously posted he was going to commit on October 22nd. I don't see that happening. I think he's going to have to make a commitment this summer, just like a lot of these guys are going to have to make a commitment this summer if they don't want to potentially miss out on their top school. So keep an eye out for that. I would not be shocked at all to see Jakeem Jackson make a commitment here in the coming weeks. Now, with that said, I'll go into his teammate too, Derek LeBlanc. I haven't spoken with Derek yet. I've talked to enough people at Penn State who give me the impression that they're certainly in it. What's interesting to me is that when you speak with my colleagues out there, a lot of them think Florida is the team to beat. When I speak with contacts at Penn State, they seem to think Oklahoma's the bigger competition than Florida. So I have two different reads on that one. But I definitely still get the vibe that Penn State is top 3 with Oklahoma and Florida. And this one could go a bunch of different ways, if I'm being blunt about it. So we just another guy we got to read and try and follow as closely as we can here. But it was really interesting to me how much people are pushing Oklahoma with him. I don't know of Oklahoma official visit. I have to read up or
not
dig
set
up on
yet.
that a little bit.
Yeah, not set yet. Yep.
Yeah, I don't believe so, but I mean, I haven't talked to him, so he's a guy I certainly would like to get in touch with, or have one of our colleagues help me out there with, because I don't have a great relationship with Derek, and I'm not going to pretend that I have. So we'll see. But Florida, Oklahoma are certainly the two schools there that consistently keep getting mentioned.
I don't think there's any question that the fact that his Twitter profile, Ryan, is him in an Oklahoma jersey tells you all you need to know about the fact that the Sooners are certainly in the mix there. But whether or not he sets an official visit there, we'll see. Let's move on now to King Mack, a safety from Florida. His teammate Conrad Hussey is committed to the Nittany Lions. King Mack is a player that I think you have felt for a long time was Penn State's to lose, but the Lions did not lock him up over the weekend. Did that surprise you, or is this one that's just going to take a little bit longer than maybe we thought at first?
Yeah, I thought that. I mean, I had people telling me that he's coming up to have a celebration basically for his commitment. So that Michigan State visit that he took last week clearly changed some things, and that's intriguing to me. Now, with that said, everybody still seems to be on board that he's going to end up at Penn State, but I'm pretty confident in saying there was quite a few people who thought he would leave campus this weekend firmly a Nittany Lion commit, and he didn't. But I do think we will hear from King Mack in the near future. He's actually someone that people mentioned to me that could potentially commit as soon as this week, but I'm still working on that. Joseph Hastings, our colleague at On 3, he is down in South Florida helping me with that situation. So hopefully we will get a little more feedback on King Mack soon. But this is definitely a Michigan State, Penn State battle. Having Conrad Hussey committed is massive for Penn State. I'm not changing my pick or anything like that, but clearly Michigan State has given them something to think about, because what I was hearing 2 weeks ago and then what happened were a little different than what I expected.
Anyone I'm missing here, Ryan? I think we've hit most of the board here. London Montgomery, I think, is the last one we have to knock out here. A 4-star running back from Scranton, a Pennsylvania player that Penn State offered maybe a little bit later than some other schools did, Ryan, but still certainly have been on him for quite some time. And, again, he was somebody else who I think going into the weekend, it wouldn't have been shocking to see him pull the trigger, but you have been pretty adamant that he still wants to finish out his official visit stretch this year, and clearly that is the case.
Yeah, he's always consistently said he wants to take visits and take his time. And that has been, told me that in March, told me that in April, told me that in May. I mean, he's never wavered from that. Now, I don't have a pick in for London for Penn State, and that's mainly just because I want to know what Trayon Webb's going to do and how that would impact some things, because Penn State doesn't have to take 2 running backs this year. Trayon Webb is expected to commit on June 30th. Now, with that all said, I don't see any world where Penn State passes up on a 4-star running back from Pennsylvania. I mean, it's just, that's too important to James Franklin. So even if Webb does commit now, I do think that Penn State will take 2 running backs. And then that, of course, is if Montgomery goes into July, which all signs kind of point to him doing right now. But good visit. I've been thinking he's going to end up at Penn State for a while now. I don't really have a much a reason to change that. Boston College will get him on campus this weekend. Virginia Tech got him on campus last weekend. Everybody I've talked to at Tech says, he should be Penn State's to lose, but he's a great kid. He doesn't want to cancel on this Boston College visit. And of course, I don't want to pretend like Boston College not in it either. They certainly are. So, but I do expect him to end up at Penn State at some point, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if it's sometime in July. So let's see the feedback here following this visit and go from there.